Hey everyone, welcome back to the workshop. It's episode 2 of my making Christmas trees out of wood. This inspiration came from Cedar River Woodworking. You can check him out. He was the first person I saw to make this geometric Christmas tree, and I thought it was something different. So I liked how he did it. So I did it very similar to how he's doing it, but I did a lot of it on the table saw instead of the chop saw. He didn't decorate his afterwards, so I don't know what his final product was. I liked in my episode 1, you saw my other tree I did that I liked the green and the brown so much, and the star that I did it on this project as well. I'll turn off the light so you can kind of see what it looks like at night. I'm not going to do all the lights, but you can kind of see it now. Now if I bring it closer into the darkness, follow me into the darkness. See how it looks? It turned out pretty well. So let's get to the video where I show you how to make this. Today we're going to take an inspiration from a YouTube site called Cedar River Woodworking. We're going to make a geometric Christmas tree with the Doggmatic spin on it. So we're going to use a 6-foot piece of 1x8. So we're going to go and rip these at 7-inch, 6-inch, 5-inch, 4-inch, 3-inch, and then down to 2-inch. And then we'll put a top piece on there. And we're going to cut them at a 30-degree angle, 2 for each. So I will show you how I'm going to cut them, as it's not going to be the same as you might see in the other videos. I'm going to use mainly the table saw instead of the chop saw. So let's get setting up our saw. After all the cuts, this is what we have left over, just in case we make a mistake, but we also need this for the base. So we'll end up cutting 3 pieces for the base as well. So we'll save that for last. So we're gonna set up the table saw and start cutting our angles. my pieces are cut. Now we can start assembling. The only thing left would be the base. And I'll cut that. And then we will want to put that base on the first piece, right? And get it glued and nailed down. So once we start putting these together, you could still glue it, but you won't be able to nail it after that the second piece is on, and so on. So we'll cut the base, and then we'll move on to assembling. Before I start screwing or nailing down all the pieces for the tree, I want to make a base. So what I did was, these are about 4 by 4, and this is about 5 by 5, but it's cut at a 30-degree angle, so the base will kind of look like that. It's kind of a little decorative base, and then I'll put the first piece on like that, right? And then we'll start rotating it as we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly sand all these first before we get going. But I want to nail all these 3 together first, and then I can nail that first one down and glue it and nail them. So no sense you watching me nail and glue and sand. So I'm going to sand these down, nail them, and glue them together. And then I'll come back once we're ready to start assembling everything on this base. I've glued and nailed the base. So to get to the first piece, I'm going to get the center of this and try to line it up as best as I can underneath with the lines, right? So that's the best way I can think to do this, especially with the base already on there. So I want to do an opposite, right, of the base. So I want the first one to be opposite, right? So I think that's what I'll do, is I'll kind of get the middle, and then I could line the corners up with the lines. I'll kind of show you. Let me draw some lines on here. All right, you see how I have an X here? So what we'll do is we'll take this square, and let's see if you can see that. Line it up until the corners of each 4 of these end up on one of the lines. But once you hit that, that means I don't know if you can see that. Now that means it's square on there. So once I get that as close as you can, then I can nail it. So what I'll do is I'll get some glue on here, line it up with these lines, turn it over, and try to nail it without it shifting. And then now we got our first piece. And then from there on, we can start rotating. Okay, so let me get this piece on there, and then I'll show you how we're going to rotate them. It shifted a little bit, you can tell, but once you get everything done and it's painted, whatever, you're not going to notice it. So now what we're going to do is try to opposite, right? So kind of like that, okay? So we're going to do every other one will be like this, and every other one after that will be like this. So you try to keep the spaces between them evenly. Hopefully this points are midpoint, right? So I'm going to kind of speed it up, or you can see me putting these together. So how I figured it out, what to do, I drew lines underneath here as well, is each one from the point here to here is 7/8 of an inch. So that's how I kind of got the middle. So I measured 7/8 of an inch, made sure each corner from here to here, hopefully you can see that, from this point to there, to the base, is 7/8 of an inch. I drew a line here just so when I glue it together, I can kind of make sure it's lined up and then go from there. I think the first two are the critical ones, and then after that you can kind of look overhead to see what they're going to look like, because they're going to go line up with all the other points, right? So I'm going to glue this and line it up with the lines I just put, as you can see here. See, I have the line put in there, and as a check, I can always make sure that they're pretty much the same. Yeah, so all about 2.5, 2.5. Yeah, all about 2.5 inches in on those. And you don't have to be perfect. It'll work itself out once you get it on there. So I'm gonna get this one on, and then we'll speed it up, and you can see me stacking them on top of each other. Put the top piece on. I have some scrap 2x2 or 1.5 by 1.5 inches. So I want to kind of make it a point. So what we're going to have to do is kind of draw a point on it. Obviously you're going to have to do one side first and then draw the point on the other side. We're going to try this in the chop saw. Table saw there only goes up a little over 1.5 inches, so it's hard to line it up. With here, we have at least the laser sight, and we're far enough away from it. That's why I made this long enough first, because what we can do is we just put the point and then we cut the rest off afterwards. So I'm going to use the chop saw. At least I can line it up with the laser. So just keep it steady. It's pretty good. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to take this side and get to the point on this, and that'll give us the point around, and then we can cut it. Okay, there you go. So now I can just cut it. So there's my tip. Now to put the top piece on, you could use that, but it's almost like an instant glue. You can spray it. You know, if you do want to put a brad nail in, I'd suggest like probably doing it in behind on an angle. I'm going to try to do that. And that's all I did there. Get one brad nail in there and hold them in place. So then you have the base here, and you decide what your front is. If you want your front here with these points and this flat, or if you want your front here with this flat, I guess it's your preference there. Now that everything is dry, I am going to paint it. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to paint all of this green and paint the base a walnut, kind of like the other tree, the other episode, because the colors look so nice on it. I'm going to try it on this, and hopefully it looks just as good. So I'm going to get the painting, and then we'll come back. So far, the green paint's done. The base stain is done. I'm waiting for the star to dry. So I did wrap some lights around here. I did glue, if you can see here. The switch there where the batteries are at the back, so that's going to be the back of the tree, and that will be the front, kind of like that. And then I have left the one light that's going to go in the star. I put a hole in the star. So once I get that star on, we'll come and finish up the video. And she is finally complete. As you can see, I put that star similar to the first project I showed you. It's actually the same star. I just cut it in half because I used a piece of 1 by 3/4 inch thick. Once I cut the star, I just used my scroll saw and cut it in half, so I got 2 stars out of it. But as like I said, the star wasn't an easy task to do. So I recommend going to the dollar store if you don't have the proper equipment for it. We got the lights on here. I did glue it there so you can't see the on and off switch, and you can switch the battery no problem. And I glued the top so the star can see. Now you can see the glue a little bit underneath, but there's not much meat there for that star to stay still, but it's not bad. It's actually pretty good. And I like the green with the wood so much on the first project. I did it on the tree as well here. This one here, it's kind of harder to hide the cord for the lights because there's no much underneath. Hide some of it, but most trees you can see the cord anyways, right? So I'm not too worried about it. So if you have any questions, leave in the comment section below. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that bell to be notified when I post another video. We'll talk to you later.